Warning: this video contains footage that utilizes Headhunter. Despite being best in slot option, it is absolutely not required. Greeting exiles and welcome to my perfect build. Today we have a build that is unrivaled in its clearing speed. A build that has over 7 million boss damage and most importantly has enough combined defensive layer to avoid getting one-shotted and carry you to level 100 deathless. So what it is all about? Let's find out. On the outside it looks like any other Blade Vortex build with extra speed, but it actually takes a very unique approach on the skill. First, I should clarify that our high movement speed comes from the build itself and not from the stolen Headhunter buffs. We are not scaling skill effect for Headhunter, so keep that in mind. But with that being said, from where do we get all our speed and damage then? At first, I just wanted to have a fast mapper, but then I realized that by going with the Assassin Ascendancy, we can achieve both easily. There are over 3 Ascendancy nodes in this Ascendancy that give us movement speed. Starting with Opportunistic. This node gives us 20% increased movement speed while mapping. It also allows us to deal 25% more damage while there is at least one rare or unique enemy nearby. Now there is a similar node to this in the Slayer Ascendancy, but this one outclasses it by a lot. Next we have Unstable Infusion. Scaling critical strike chance is an easy way to get more damage, and we do get that with more power charges. Pretty straightforward. From here we take the node behind it, which is Deadly Infusion. This allows us to properly scale our damage by simply getting as many power charges as possible. This node also provides us with 10% increased movement speed all the time. But finally, we have the best of them all, Mistwalker. This node grants us Elusive buff with 25% increased effect. Why is it so good? Elusive grants us 30% increased movement speed with 15% chance to dodge anything. We mostly take it for the movement speed buff though. And with all of these nodes, we achieve over 60% increased movement speed from the Ascendancy alone. So what's next? Passive tree. Here is what your average tree should look like. If you follow my exact version, then you will have 100% chance to deal over 500% critical damage after taking every single power charge node on the passive tree. We also have 4 more charges on our gear. We will get to them later though. You can maintain 100% crit chance even without cluster jewels because we don't have crit chance on them anyway. Alright then, we established that we are taking a unique spin on Blade Vortex. So what it is? You see, 99% of people who use Blade Vortex converts its physical damage to some other elemental damage, and then use Herald of Ice for clearing. From here I asked myself, why bother doing that after all the physical support that was added to the game? So I went ahead and decided to start scaling global physical damage, crit chance and multiplier with area damage. All that while using Pride with a 3% Explodey chest mod instead of Herald of Ice. Now this configuration allows us to clear the entire screen instantly, because enemies will take greatly increased physical damage thanks to the scaling which affects the 3% Explode mod and Pride aura effect. We also have War Banner and Vulnerability. And since all of these skills makes enemies take more physical damage, now we allow our Explode chest to clear even faster. At this point we don't even need Herald of Ice because our clearing speed is already at the top 1% compared to all other builds in this game. And we get to maintain our high damage against bosses since they have absolutely no mitigation against physical damage whatsoever. Alright then, now what about our items? Let's start with our weapon of choice. We are dual wielding void batteries for increased spell damage with power charges. You can try to get one with increased area of effect corruption implicit, since that will also scale the range of your 3% explode mod on your body armor. And speaking about your body armor, we are using one with Crusader and Hunter influences, on an energy shield base with bonus base crit to spells and the 3% explode mod. Try to craft 10% of your maximum life gained as ES because that's essential to sustain energy shield while mapping. It also greatly increases your overall survivability because we have Eldritch Battery with Mind over Matter keystones on the passive tree. It would also help to have life on your body armor as well. Anyway, next for our helm, we have Crown of the Inward Eye. You should try to get one with +1 maximum power charge corruption implicit. If that was proven hard to get, then you can craft a rare helmet with Redeemer influence because it can inherently roll +1 maximum power charge. However, getting a crown with that as a corruption implicit is ultimately your best in slot option. From here we move on to our belt. We have already talked about this one before. We are using Headhunter as a stats filler, also because belts are quite useless for scaling damage for casters, and that's why Headhunter is best in slot option here. However, it's 100% not required and can be replaced with anything else if you so desire. Okay then, what about our boots? Since we already have Elusive from the Ascendancy, we just need Tailwind to maximize our movement speed. Of course, that alongside a high movement speed roll. From here, getting high life and as many resistance modifiers as possible is optional. If you have decided not to use Headhunter, then try to get Dexterity on your boots to compensate for it. For Lab Enchant, you can try and go for the one that increases your movement speed, which I was too lazy to farm for myself. Okay, now let's move on to our gloves, because this one is quite interesting. We have Shadows and Dust with Vulnerability Curse on hit corruption. But why use a 1C gloves instead of a mirror tier rare item? Well, this one gives us Rampage, which is usually not a big deal, but take into consideration our already high clearing speed and you get a monster in return. Rampage grants us increased global damage and movement speed as we clear the map, which translates into even more clearing speed and damage. It's a very powerful buff, especially if you are doing tier 19 full Delirium maps. From here we can ask ourselves, what can we do to increase our clearing speed even more? We have a Precursor emblem with +1 maximum power charge and increased movement speed based on how many of them we have. Now something like this can be very expensive at the start of the league, but the price falls off drastically as the league comes to an end. You should at least have one equipped. I'm only using one because I needed to have a rare second ring with lots of resistances and flat life. If you manage to get a mirror tier boots with triple tier 1 resistances, then you might be able to use 2 Precursor emblems for a total of 12 power charges. So now we move on to our amulet. You got two options. Either use Solstice Vigil to extend the duration of your Blade Vortex and Headhunter buffs, or manually craft a rare amulet with lots of area of effect and movement speed. For this video we are using Solstice Vigil because it allows us to run Temporal Chain as an aura for free. We manually allocate Whispers of Doom for it. Finally, make sure to anoint Constitution to break through the 5000 life threshold. We already have 100% crit chance, so allocating another damage node isn't really required. And with that we are done with our items. Now let's talk about our gems. For our main 6 link we have Blade Vortex, Control Destruction, Energy Shield Leech, Power Charge on Critical Strike, Brutality, because we are pure physical damage, and finally, Unleash support. Replace this one with Concentrated effect when you encounter an endgame boss. Next we have our aura setups, starting with E4 link. In it we have Pride, Vitality, Herald of Purity, and level 3 Enlighten. Our second aura setup contains Temporal Chains, Blasphemy support to turn Temporal Chain into an aura, and War Banner. All those are linked with increased area of effect to allow these skills to cover the entire screen. Our last 4 link setup is optional but contains an extra defensive layer. Here we have Steel Skin, Empower, Enhance support, and Increased duration. Make sure to appoint this skill to your left mouse button slot to allow it to auto trigger as you keep moving. As a result, we end up having a shield with 3000 hit points, which will be active for around 70% of the time. That combined with our life and energy shield pool is over 10,000 combined defensive layer, which easily protects you from getting one-shotted most of the time. Our last gem setup contains level 1 precision, Var Righteous Fire for nuking bosses, and summon Stone Golem, or any other golem you like. Any remaining gem slot is left for whatever movement skill you so choose to use. I went with Flame Dash because it's quite versatile. Alright, now let's talk about our jewels, starting with our cluster setup. We have 1 large and 2 medium ones, each with the minimum amount of added passives. On our large cluster jewel we have some pretty powerful physical nodes like Master the Fundamentals, Force Multiplier, and Exploit Weakness. You might want to replace the last one with any other useful notable if you don't have vulnerability curse on hit on your gloves. From here we move on to our medium clusters. They have some pretty powerful area of effect nodes like Vast Power and Towering Threat. From here we have normal jewels. Almost every one of them should look something similar to this one. Scaling global physical damage affects the damage dealt by your Explode mod as well. Same thing with area damage and global critical strike multiplier. Finally, we have 7% life, which could be replaced with another damage mod if you are on a budget. For unique jewels, I wanted a way to sustain myself while bossing, so I got myself a Watcher's Eye with life leech while affected by vitality, and chance to deal double damage while affected by pride. Our second unique jewel is a timeless jewel, which mentions High Templar Dominus. It should be placed in this specific jewel socket, because it will turn Pain Atonement into Inner Conviction, which translates into 33% more spell damage at 11 power charges. This is a much easier and more effective way of scaling our damage than using Badge of the Brotherhood, because that one is expensive and requires us to find a way to generate frenzy charges while mapping. And that was it for our jewels. For bandits, we help Alira for her all elemental resistances and critical strike multiplier bonuses. For pantheons, go for whatever ones you like. It doesn't really matter honestly. I went with the Soul of Lunaris for the extra movement speed while mapping. For flasks, pretty much the same thing. It is left for you to decide whatever one you want to use. Just make sure to have as much movement speed as possible on them. And with that we are done with this build guide. Honestly, it's one of the best builds I have made because it doesn't require you to do anything while playing it. You can generate lots of XP and loot in a very short amount of time without having to do much. This is by far the easiest build to get to level 100 without investing into expensive maps like pure Preach Stones. But with that being said, if you guys got any question, then you know what to do. Leave a comment telling me what you think, and maybe like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any future build guides like this one. My name is Phoenix and I will see you all in the next video.